The trail of evidence in the great Biden health cover-up getting longer by the day. Former President Obama's own physician now admitting that Biden's doctor failed to properly assess his fitness for office, saying, quote, Biden would have benefited from a neurocognitive exam during the last year of his presidency. Biden would have benefited. How about the American people? Day one. Criminy, James.
This as House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer is expanding his investigation, requesting interviews with 5 top Biden aides. Joining us now is Fox News contributor Liz Peek and podcast host Ben Ferguson. Liz, now he tells us this doctor, he might have mentioned at some point when we used to get those typed reports from Biden's doctor talking about everything related to his health except his cognitive capacity.
Okay, so I am very deeply suspicious of this story and others that have come out for this reason. What they really want is to have a rule, a law enacted, which requires presidents to have these cognitive tests. Why? Because then they want to apply it to Donald Trump.
Right.
I think he'll be fine, but I think the Washington Post or somebody came out with an op-ed saying, let's pass a law, let's require them to have it. Because guess what? Donald Trump is fine, but they have been talking about his mental fitness for years, even though there's absolutely no sign of any slippage whatsoever. So I think this doctor is extremely suspect, being part of this big narrative that, this kind of testing should go on of all presidents. Wait and see. They'll make a push for this.
You get no credit for saying boo about it now. None. And by the way, the verbal response to the LA riots is the same response to Biden's cognitive health. It's the same lying.
Yeah,
it's like we can
there's
see
no
what's
right
going
out there.
on.
Everything's peaceful out there, right? I do have to say one of the key words that was said by the doctor was like, well, they failed him. No, they didn't. They deliberately covered it up. You saw a problem and you said, we're not going to test for that problem because we know what the answer is. We know what's going to come back. It's like looking at someone that's overweight saying, we're not going to look at it for their overweight because we know that it's going to say you're morbidly obese. So we just didn't check for it. Cognitive decline of Joe Biden was the worst and the biggest cover-up in American political history. And everyone around him said, don't ask that question. Don't test for that. We're going to keep running the country, and we'll replace him after we get him across the finish line. And I go back to the biggest problem here. I don't even care about Biden. I care about the fact that there was a bunch of people running the United States of America that were elected by no one. And that there was a massive cover-up while they were running the country. And then the doctor's like, well, they could have helped him if they would have asked the question. They knew the answer. They knew he was impaired. They knew he shouldn't be president. They knew he should probably be in a retirement facility with 24/7 care. And so if you ask the question, and that's the answer you get that comes back to you, well, you don't want to tell the American voters that because we lose our power.
Boom. Speaking of liberal media and spin, let's move on to this. ABC News suspending its senior correspondent, Terry Moran, after his social media tirade against President Trump and Stephen Miller. He posted this, part of it, quote, Miller is a man who is richly endowed with the capacity for hatred. He is a world-class hater. Trump is a world-class hater, but his hatred only is a means to an end. And that end is his own glorification. That's his spiritual nourishment. Ben, I'm going to call him.
No bias in the media.
I'm going to call
that.
him TT Moran. He tweeted, he put this on X, I think it was like around midnight.
Yeah.
Which is always telling.
Yeah.
Put your phone down.
It's a little spicy, you know. Get a little spicy out there, spicy margarita, and then you just throw out a spicy text tweet, you know.
I love when this pond scum, when they really reveal
who they are,
that
they're not journalists, that they're biased. No.
They're redolence, but they're true colors.
But the question is, how fast do they rehab him? Is this a vacation? Is this a go down to Florida for a few weeks and then you say, hey, man, we need you to be gone for a couple more, so you go to the Bahamas for a few weeks and they go, hey, you're almost there, polling looks good, go to Colorado for a few weeks, hang out in Aspen, and then we're going to have you come back. Unless he is fired This is all a sham. It's all a ruse. And I'm not hoping for someone to be fired. I want to be clear.
No.
I just want to be honest about who he is. Like, hey, I'm a scumbag that acts like a journalist, that hates Republicans, and I want to tear them down every day. And this whole idea that, like, there's some sort of, like, well, we're going to have some accountability now. It's not fooling me. I'm sorry.
Well, I agree with all of that. I think that this is just sort of one of the more visible examples lately of someone who is supposed to be an unbiased reporter having very strong opinions and voicing them. By the way, I believe in free speech. If he wants to rant and rave about Stephen Miller, that's fine. But don't pretend that you're part of a news organization that, as part of its mandate, talks about being unaligned, down the middle, etc., which we all know it isn't. Right?
Correct.
I mean, we all know this
You're
is
lying
a
to your
sham.
audience, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I have to say, you know, this comes after the AP was banished from the White House. And a court has now said, yeah, they can stay banished. They were banished because they refused to talk about the Gulf of America as opposed to Gulf of Mexico. But the reality is the news media, thank heavens, is a little bit getting its own right now. And I think
as they deserve.
There's a little accountability coming in. I think that's terrific. But again, I do think that if he wants to go
Just
off and
be honest on who you are,
an
though.
opinion
Like,
reporter,
we gotta roll.
Way beyond bias. We got to leave it there.
I am still going to call him T.T. Moran for the rest of his life.
That's allowed.
Speak.
And
Ben
encourage
Ferguson.
Stephen.